Hi everyone! Today we are talking about the effects of comparing yourself to others and whether or not it is harmful to do that. So many of you asked, is it harmful to compare myself to others? Or what are the effects of comparing myself to others? Well, I've got some good news and some bad news. In today's day and age, with social media the way that it is, we definitely do a lot of comparing ourselves. There are pros and cons to comparing yourself to others, and today we are going to talk about exactly what those pros and cons are. There is a theory called social comparison theory that deals with comparing yourself to others, whether that's in real time with a person with you or online when you're scrolling through your Instagram and you see other people. What's interesting is that social comparison theory says that we either compare ourselves upward or downward. Upward social comparison is when we compare ourselves to somebody that we idolize or that we think is better than us or that we want to be like. Downward social comparison says that, well, sometimes what we do to try to make ourselves feel better is we compare ourselves and our achievements and our attributes and qualities to people who we perceive to be lower than us or not doing quite as well. Now here's the thing. There are pros to comparing yourself to others, but they're very few. There are in fact way more negatives to social comparison than we would like. The first is with social comparison that is upward, so when you compare yourself to someone else who is potentially doing better than you or someone on your Instagram or social feed that has a really polished looking life, you feel bad about yourself. And so a lot of the research shows that when you do upward social comparison, you don't actually have the motivation you were hoping for. Instead, what you do is you end up feeling worse about yourself and more depressed. Now, downward social comparison also has disadvantages. As you can imagine, when you compare yourself to somebody who you perceive to being worse off or worse than you, the challenge is that while you feel good for a second, it doesn't motivate action. And it's not necessarily an objective reflection of how you're really doing in the world. So, social comparison theory effectively tells us that if we want to be better, if we want to achieve our goals, if we want to build ourselves and grow as humans, social comparison, either upward or downward, is not to our advantage. So, social comparisons, they are pretty well harmful whether they're upward or downward. The question is, how do I control social comparisons, especially when there are so many of them to be had? I mean, it's completely natural to compare yourself to others, especially with social media, when you're walking through the streets, when you're on the subway, on the train, driving in traffic. How are you not comparing yourself to others? I have a couple of tricks for you that the research shows will help you with stopping social comparisons, which of course we want to do because social comparisons, upward or downward, are both to our detriment. The first trick, according to the research, in order to help stop social comparisons is to do this. Spend time with people who like you and accept you for you. This sounds really straightforward, but what we've shown is that if you spend time with people that you compare upward to or downward to, you will leave a much less happy person. Whereas if you spend time with people who just accept you and know you for you, you will be much more happy, much more comfortable in your own skin, and it will decrease the likelihood that you will do that much more social comparison. The second thing that you can do to stop social comparisons is to make a list of your strengths and your areas of opportunities. Maybe we won't call them weaknesses. We'll call them areas of opportunities. But the reason that you might do this, if as an example you're finding that of late you're really comparing yourself a lot, or what's happening is that you're really starting to feel a lot of social comparison infiltrate your internal narratives, starting to really get you down, what we want to do is make a list. So make a list of all of your strengths as well as all of your weaknesses. What research shows is that if you do this, you're much more likely then to have a more realistic view of yourself. But second is that you'll be a lot more objective about who you really are vis-a-vis the other people in your social sphere. Another way that you can control your social comparisons is to take a break from TV. One of the things we know is that television, as fun as it is, as easy it is to watch the tube, Television really increases our likelihood of social comparisons because in these highly dramatized, fantasticalized, wonderful super realities that television puts together, we lose sight of what's real, we lose sight of what could be, and we certainly lose sight of where we really measure up in our social sphere. So, research shows that if you take a break from television, Netflix, watching other people do things, whether in reality television or the fictionalized versions, either way, you'll be much more in tune with yourself and much less likely to engage in social comparisons everywhere else in your life. Okay, so you take a break from television. You're not going to be surprised to hear that the next thing you should do, according to the research, is take a break from social media. Social media is a very fun pastime, but it is opportunity for a lot of social comparisons, both upward and downward. And so, if you want to get a little bit more objective about yourself and a little less bogged down with comparing yourself to others, take a short break from social media. What you'll do is you'll reinvest in yourself and you'll be much less prone to engaging in these downward social comparisons, upward social comparisons of other people online. Finally, if you want to control your social comparisons, another thing you can do is, frankly, to look on the bright side. No one is perfect. Most people are producing very polished versions of themselves online and in the world. Instead, if what you do is you make your list of your strengths, your weaknesses, and frankly, if what you do is you lean into who you are, you're much more likely to be objective about who you are, as well as much more reflective, much more reflexive about who you could be. And so ultimately, if what you do is invest time in who you are and getting happy with who you are, just as you are, then you are much less likely to engage in those harmful upward and downward social comparisons. Thanks for watching today. Subscribe, let me know in the comments below what you thought and how it is that you are controlling your social comparisons.